If you want to start building full body strength, control and mastery and a pretty much amazing physique, all you're gonna need are those exercises. Those will hit every single muscle group in your entire body, and I'd even go so far as saying you can use those as the blueprint for the first couple of years of your calisthenics journey. So if you're ready, let's go and have some fun. So our first foundational progression will be all about push exercises. And since we want to start with perfect form from the beginning, so we can start learning how to do it correctly, we're going to start with assisted push-ups. Hands turned slightly inwards. Our elbows will open up sideways into a 45-degree angle to our latissimus. We're going to extend our back. And now this is very important. We're going to flex our abdominals to go into an anterior pelvic tilt. And from here, we're going to lengthen our shoulders around our upper back as well, so we have the maximum range of motion when moving downwards as well as moving upwards, actively pushing them towards each other before we move into the next repetition. Those last couple of centimeters in the end of your range of motion are going to make a world's difference when pushing up. For our next level, we're going to raise our knees and go through the exact same movement pattern, which is a little bit more chest dominant. Once again, making sure that you have complete anterior chain tension and the full range of motion. Moving to more triceps dominant push-ups by turning our shoulders into external rotation, meaning our elbows are pointing backwards, and keeping our arms as close to our upper body as possible, taking over with our triceps instead of having most of the weight being pushed by our chest. These two pushing variations will make up the foundation, and now we can start with the fun part. Close together, forming a triangle, going into diamond push-ups, which are very arm dominant, opening up very wide. One arm always extended while the other arm bends. Archer push-ups are very chest dominant and have the bonus of stretching out your pectorals and your anterior delts for a little bit more flexibility bonus as well, but require a lot of strength. And staying in the same ballpark when it comes to grip width, we will go through the typewriter push-up, which this time means we're going to move down in the middle before we move laterally at the bottom of the movement, like so, and then reverse to the middle. We can put the last two together into a combo move of circular movements, being an archer and a typewriter in one single exercise pattern, like so, requiring a massive amount of strength and opening up your chest, which feels absolutely amazing. And what is going to be very important, all of those variations can be done with assistance as well. We've got the triceps dominant, the diamond push-up, assisted archers, assisted typewriters. So even if you do not have the strength to move on to the next level, you can take a level in between with the assisted variation. Then of course we have the Hindu push-up, which is going to help us with some spinal mobility, especially when it comes to spinal extension, and is going to put a lot of dominance on our shoulders as well in this movement pattern. Just like so. And that one is very similar to the pike push-up, which requires a lot of posterior chain flexibility. Consider that a bonus in your pushing exercises. This moves us to my favorite exercise, the pull-up, and we have variations out the wazoo, starting with the easiest one first, and the ones that you need to do to build the necessary foundation to advance to the more complicated ones. If you do not have the necessary strength to do actual pull-ups, use a resistance band. I'm going to show you how to in a moment. The most important one you will learn in the beginning, and that is going to make a world's difference in how far you can advance with the other variations, would be the scapular pull-up. Starting in a dead hang, all we need to do is adduct our shoulder blades and depress them before we abduct and elevate. Scapular positioning is one of the most important things you will learn throughout your calisthenics journey, and if you cannot do that in a controlled fashion, then you will suffer the consequences, being that you will progress much slower and you will have a lot of problems in your form. Now, of course, since we also have a lot of unilateral movements, we have to do the same thing for the scapular pull-up, being a single-sided or unilateral scapular pull-up. This time we have some upward rotation in our scapula as well before we switch positions. Now, you will already notice that this is basically the beginner movement for the archer pull-up. So this will already teach you how to activate the necessary muscles you need for more advanced stuff. Then we can finally move on to some of the beginner variations. Underhand grip will be the easiest variation because this one is more biceps dominant and less back dominant. Wide overhand grip is less arm dominant and more latissimus dominant, requiring a little bit more strength, a little bit more control, and is going to take some time before you truly advance there. Now, I would advise that you learn to do 5 to 10 repetitions of each of those before you move on to the more advanced ones, because this is going to build the foundation you will need for them. With our first advanced variation, of course, being the archer pull-up, one arm always fully extended, the other one bending, meaning we have a lot more unilateral pull, requiring more strength from one side than the other. And of course, we want to have full range of motion, always bringing our chin above the bar before we move to the other side. And then we can combine the latissimus pull-up with the archer pull-up, moving to the typewriter pull-up, first to the middle, then complete extended to the lateral side, complete extension, lateral other side, back to the middle, and only then do we reverse all the way back down into a dead hang. Now this one is going to take quite a while until you get used to the form, and after the next one I'm going to show you how to make this super easy, because this upcoming pull-up is going to put all of the movements we just did together into one single fluent motion, starting with an archer, lateral movement at the very top, reversing an archer, going through those circular pull-ups, which require a lot of strength, a lot of control, and a lot of body tension to go through the full range of motion. And this is where our friend and helper comes in. All of those pull-ups can be done with assistance, and I would recommend you even do that, because then you can work on your form way before you have the necessary strength. So go through the exercises with some assistance until you feel super safe in doing the movement pattern, and only then should you remove the assistance and go through those exercises all by yourself. Now, there aren't many things as embarrassing as being super strong in your upper body but super weak in your lower body, which is why we're going to move to my second favorite, which are squats, and then we have some absurdly effective variations for those. Just for the beginner, you need to master the classic symmetrical ass to grass squat, which means your feet flat on the ground, sitting down all the way. If your heels raise for the time being, don't worry about it. Over time, this should get better with better ankle mobility and more strength in your anterior chain. What you can do to compensate for that, slightly elevate your heels, which is going to make it far easier for you to sit down all the way into an ass to grass squat and reverse. And over time, reduce that pesky elevation until you can flatten your feet in the deep squat. And now we can truly start having some fun with those. Close your legs all the way, requiring a massive engagement of your hip flexors and core when you lower down all the way and get up all the way. A little bit wider, feet pointed outwards, external rotation in your hip joints for a little bit more hip mobility. You do not need to go ass to grass. You can hold it here for a handful of seconds, actively push your knees out before you reverse and flex your quads and butt all the way before you move into the next repetition. And while we are in that wide stance, I have one more exercise you should definitely try adding. Same with the horse stance. Trust me, if you can add this exercise to your leg workouts, you will become so strong when it comes to not only static strength, but also pretty good when it comes to your hip mobility, and just building the necessary tension in your entire body is going to help you with all kinds of other exercises that require full body tension and control. And before we move on to the split squats, my favorite squat variations are Cossack squats. Super wide stance, starting with level number 1, hips down to knee height, feet parallel, one leg extended, reverse and repeat on the other side. Next level, deep Cossack squat, raise one heel, sit down all the way, building massive strength in your quads and massive control throughout your leg musculature while opening up and stretching your entire legs. Next level, adding some glute engagement, all the way down, knee down, push forward, and now maximum hip flexor engagement to reverse this movement, all the way up, all the way down on the other side. And now we can start adding every single muscle fiber in our lower body to our squat routine. Next level, all the way down, instead of moving forward, move backwards, sit your butt down, and from here, getting up into a standing position requires a ton of strength, a ton of control, and a ton of tension. So I would highly advise, if you're a beginner, work with your hands on the ground until you have the necessary movement pattern down, and only then can you start removing your hands and sitting down all the way like so and reversing. Moving us to one of the most hated squats, which I don't understand because it's by far one of the most effective exercises you can do for your legs, which is the classic Bulgarian split squat. For one, amazing anterior chain stretch, especially when it comes to our hip flexors and quads, which means that you're already taking care of one of the most problem dominant zones in our body, the hips, just like so, building massive strength in our quads while combining that with the stretch. It feels absolutely amazing. And at the very top of the motion, we have a lot of glute engagement because we need to extend our hips all the way before we move into the next repetition. And of course, you can add resistance to all of these exercises if you so wish. Now, we have yet to work on our abdominals, but lucky for you, I'm a fan of peak efficiency, and doing it this way is going to help you advance with all the other exercises we've been doing today, because we will start training our core in a hanging position. For one, we're going to add a lot of grip strength and arm strength. We're also going to have a lot of hip flexor inclusion. So level number one, just knee raises. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. After that, extended leg raises. The level after that is going to add a longer range of motion with far more rotation until your feet touch up here before you reverse. And then we go through extended raises, just like so, with those four making up the foundation of your hanging core exercises, with the amazing bonus of super strong hip flexors, super strong quads, which, as we said, is going to be an immense bonus for all the other exercises. Then we can start adding some oblique work with tiny movements. Hold to the left, tiny movement, hold to the right, and then of course we can add rotations for maximum core strength and long ranges of motion, adding every single muscle fiber in our core. And then I have one more bonus exercise for those of you who truly want to advance past the intermediate level. So please take your time while working on this one. We've got one of the coolest core exercises when it comes to calisthenics with the classic windshield wiper. For one, it's absolutely amazing. It's strengthening your obliques and your transverse abdominals, which is one of the core muscles that help you get that snatched waist and really strong musculature. So what you're gonna do now is pick a handful of exercises from each one of those exercise clusters, meaning, for instance, 2 or 3 pushing variations, 2 or 3 pulling variations, 2 or 3 squat variations, put them together into one workout, start working your way up to the more and more advanced variations at your own pace. And what's very important is have some fun, try out some of the exercises, even if they are a little bit too advanced, just do them with assistance until you feel safer with them, and then start adding them to your repertoire, because the more fun you have, the more you will stay on task. And if you do that, trust me, just those exercises with all of those variations will keep you busy for a very long time and are more than enough to build an amazing physique you can't even imagine until you've done it for long enough. With that said, if you like the video, come on, please subscribe. We do stuff like that almost every single day, which means that I will probably see you tomorrow or the day after. Until then, have a good one. Captain Cairo. Peace out.